Good day wherever you're watching from. My name is Jennifer Ahmadu-Oyegoke. Like the caption of this video rightly stated, I want to share my experience of living with Apostle Arome Osayi and his beloved wife, Reverend Mrs. Dina Osayi. So if you are here thinking to get a negative news for your itchy ear, that's not why this video is made, because there is none at all. So everything that will be said in this video are all positive things about him, and they are not false. They are absolutely true. There are 1,001 people who can attest to this story, right? Or who can attest to how true this man of God is. So I met Apostle Arome Osayi in the year 2019. Prior to this time, I had joined Remnant Christian Network Lagos. And later I moved to Remnant Christian Network Mina because I was schooling in the Federal University of Technology Mina. And the Remnant Christian Network Mina is headed by Reverend Jonathan. So I was listening to Apostle's messages. I had not met him one-on-one, but then I held a conference on campus for sisters, and I invited Apostle Arome's wife, Reverend Mrs. Dina Osayi. She graced that event, and it was a power-packed event. There are a couple of people that can testify to this. So this was where the relationship between I and the Osayi's family started building up. So after that conference in the city of Mina, in the Federal University of Technology Mina, specifically held in the Boso campus, I traveled for the Festival of Glory. So Remnant Christian Network usually holds two global conferences in the city of Makurdi. The IEC, which is the International Eagles Conference, usually held in the month of May, right? And the Festival of Glory usually held in the month of November. So during these conferences, sons and daughters from far and wide would always, come to Makurdi to get energized in the spirit for the season that lies ahead of them. It is important to note that before I met with Reverend Dina Osayi, before she came for that conference that I hosted in the city of Mina, I was always traveling for IEC as a student. I would travel from school to IEC in May, and then I would also travel for Festival of Glory in the month of November. So eventually, after that conference was held, that was when I had a personal relationship with Mama Dina Osayi. And then in the year 2019, November specifically, I went for Festival of Glory, and I was opportune to stay in their house. Prior to this time, I would always stay in the camp. So now I had access to them, and I was opportune to stay in their house. That was my very first encounter, one-on-one with Apostle, having conversations with him. And then I just started speaking to him about a lot of things. And I won't lie to you, there was just a atmosphere around him, a atmosphere of sincerity, of love that you cannot explain. If you come close to him, if you know him one-on-one, you would love him. He's full of humor. When you see him, you would think that he's always hard, but sometimes he just cracks very beautiful jokes and makes everyone around, happy. And he really doesn't like, his house to be so quiet. When he comes back and he finds out that the house is so quiet, maybe the brothers staying in the house are not around, or, there's just maybe this quietness, he doesn't feel happy about it. He's asking, where is the members of this community? Where are they? He really wants to see people around. He wants to see, he wants to hear the noise in the kitchen. He wants to hear the, the talks and every other thing. That's who Apostle Arome is. So, yeah. So in the year 2019, when I met him, we spoke about a few things. We didn't really talk so much, but then he told me to come to Makurdi for a retreat. Prior to this time, I was already thinking of going to the Adulam Bible School in the city of Makurdi. So when he said that, that was more like a confirmation to me that this is what the Lord would have me do. So I went back to Makurdi earlier 2020, before the lockdown became intense. I was in Makurdi, and that was how my journey living with Apostle Arome Osayi and Reverend Mrs. Dina Osayi began. It was an amazing experience. I learned so much because I was coming from a broken home. I didn't have a father figure, to show an example of what it means to be. I didn't have a father figure around me to show me the basic examples of life, right? So having that opportunity was a heartwarming opportunity for me. It was something I'd always looked up to have a father figure that I could speak to about the things bothering my heart, about the things God had said to me, because The Lord had told me I was going to do ministry, and I mean pulpit ministry and some other things the Lord had said. A couple of people around me didn't believe these things that when I said it to them. But at the very instance I met Apostle Arome and I told him, these are the things God has been saying to me. He told me, he just made a statement. He said, I believe you. This is who he is. He believes in people. He believes in the God-given talent in everyone. He's not someone to, to shut you down when you are saying something to him about, what God is saying to you. It will also interest you to know that he's a very open-minded person. If you have prophecies for him, he takes it, he prays with it. He wants to know what God is saying to him, and he can ask his sons and his daughter, what is God saying about this season? I need the words of God. And when you bring it to him, he thanks you, he goes back and prays with it. And when God confirms it, he will come and tell you that, Kai, that prophecy where you give, God confirm him, or like he literally would speak, the broken English. This is who he is. He's just an amazing person, So living with him that period, I started learning a lot of things, a whole lot of things. My life took a drastic change. I enrolled in the Bible school and all of that, and the house was always full. As at this time, I can't remember the exact figure, but I knew that this was the heat of lockdown. So we had over 20 persons staying in the house. You can imagine. And Apostle literally would take care of each and every one of us. He gave us money to, for upkeep. He would see us, the sisters, and he would be like, oh, why is your hair looking like this? Or you go and make your hair. This is who he is. And every other sisters who had lived with him can also testify to these things I'm saying. So when Apostle says some things on the pulpit, he isn't just coming out to say those things. This is who he really is. He's a sincere, a genuine man of God who really loves God and doesn't try to, kill people's talent. Also, before I met him, the Lord had already told me that I was going to start a Remnant Christian branch to pioneer one of the branches in the city of Ilorin. I spoke to Apostle about it. I told him, this is what God said to me. And he believed it. He didn't say, you be gay, you not go feed one. He really believed it. He believed in the capacity that God had put in me. And it will interest you to know that while in the heat of the lockdown, I was waiting for my NYSC call-up, right? And God had told me I was going to serve in the city of Ilorin. So Apostle was waiting to see it come to pass. He said to me, if it happens to be that you are posted to the city of Ilorin, then it means that truly God is sending you there and you have my blessings to begin the Remnant Christian Network there. This is who he is. He doesn't look down on the female gender. He doesn't look down on the male gender. He gives us the wings to fly. He gives everyone around him the wings to fly. And eventually, I was posted to the city of Ilorin. So that was God confirming his words. And those of us who know what the NYSC system looks like, it would literally be posted to where NYSC wants to post you to. So you pick maybe 4 locations or 4 different locations as at that time, 4 different states, and eventually NYSC will pick one and post you there. So NYSC posted me to Kwara State, and that was how I ended up in the city of Ilorin. But before this, right, like I said, it was the heat of lockdown 2020. Apostle was always checking up. Is your posting out? Have they posted you? Where are you sent to? And I'll tell you, Daddy, they've not posted us. We are still waiting for posting. But he was really looking forward to, me maximizing my God-given potential. He was really looking forward to it. I could remember one of those period he traveled. So as at this time, there was already flexibility in movement during the lockdown. So he traveled for administration. I remember he was in that administration in that state. I cannot remember the exact state. And he sent me a message on WhatsApp and he asked me a question. Una posting don't come out. I said they don't post people. I now told him that they've not posted though, but I'm still hoping and waiting. And eventually, when I got my posting, I remember he was not in Makurdi that time. I sent him my call-up letter and he said, I know. And then he made a statement. He said, and now I know say you dey hear from God, so that's who he is. And eventually I got to Ilorin and I started the Remnant Christian Network branch in Ilorin. He gives us the wing to fly. I'm beginning to get emotional because as at this time before I met him, A lot of people didn't believe when I said God had called me into ministry. It didn't make sense to them. But Apostle believed. He didn't argue it. He didn't think it twice. When I said it to him, he believed and he gave me that opportunity. And that's one thing I would always be grateful to him for, right? That's one thing I would always be grateful to him for. I don't even, time will fail me to talk about his wife, Reverend Mrs. Dina Osayi, such an amazing woman, patient and kind, so patient and kind. Sometimes she's feeling hot about something, that any of us must have done, and she would just be so calm saying it, you know. These are who they are. Everything Apostle talks about on pulpit, he literally lives that life, the life of prayer, the life of fasting. His experience, also compelled me to want to be like him, so much so that during my NYC days, I literally had to fast throughout that NYC year because this was what he said he did during his NYC days. And those experiences shaped my life and is still shaping me up until now. Apostle is such an amazing person. There's so much I would want to say, but time would fail me to recount all of the things that Apostle has done for me, my sisters, my brothers, those of us who had lived with him. There are 1,001 people, that I can count who literally had lived with Apostle. And that's how welcoming he and his wife could be. Papa, if you're watching this video, I just want to say to you that I love you so much. I've always loved you. I've always looked up to you. You've been a tremendous blessing to me, to my husband, to everyone around you. And my earnest prayer for you is that the Lord would keep you until the very end, steadfastly in him until the very end. Thank you for being a father figure we could look up to. Thank you for modeling Christ. Thank you for teaching us the way of the Lord. At this point, I want to say something. I know I'm already trying to wrap up with this video, but there's one thing about him. Apostle is a very humble person. You can imagine, as big man of God in quotes that he is, his slippers, his palm slippers that he would keep, my brothers will wear them, and he doesn't say anything about it. Maybe they just didn't know that these slippers belong to him, so they would put it on, right? And it will be later, we would be like, now Papa slippers you wear. Say, but if he finds out, like maybe as we are just saying, now Papa slippers you wear, and he's around, he would tell you, I beg, leave that thing. Souls are perishing. Now slippers on they talk about you. This is who he is. He's not a proud person. He's just very lovable. And so, like Reverend Austin Okpara said, for every family, there is always an issue. There is no perfect family, right? The Remnant Christian Network family might not be perfect, but I must say to you that Apostle himself models Christ to us. He teaches us the way of the Lord, and he doesn't try to kill our voices. We are in this big family, but we have our perspective. The way I think might not be the way my brother think, might not be the way, but we just ensure that each and every one of us, our perspective is aligned to scripture. We can argue about some things, we can talk about some things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we do not love ourselves, right? So it's just normal. Even with biological siblings, they have issues, but they would always come together to resolve those issues, right? So like I was saying before, Papa, I love you so much. Mama, I love you. Thank you for all the things that you've done for me, for my husband, for our entire generation at large. God bless you. And I pray earnestly that the Lord will keep you steadfastly in him. Thank you. Love you.